has reversed the conviction of the former Deputy National Chairman of the PDP, Chief Olabode George. The judges of the Apex Court, headed by Afolabi Fabi, in their judgment, ruled that the charges of contract splitting, on which the EFCC arraigned and secured the conviction of the politician, was unknown to the laws of the land. The Apex Court ruled that the EFCC, which prosecuted George, did not sufficiently prove that the defendant had an intention to commit fraud at the Nigeria Ports Authority. Chief George and other board members of the NPA, where the politician was the chairman, were convicted and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment by Justice Oyewole of the Lagos High Court for contract splitting. The Supreme Court judgment is coming more than 3 years after the former Deputy National Chairman of the PDP served a 2-year jail term in Kirikiri maximum prison for contract splitting.
Well, the former Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nasir El-Rufai, has been freed by an Abuja High Court over charges of abusing his power during his tenure as minister. El-Rufai, who had been on trial since 2008, was charged under the Corrupt and Other Related Offences Act 2000 for allegedly using his ministerial position to revoke a plot of land originally owned by the Power Holding Company of Nigeria PLC and re-awarding it to his wife, Hadiza Ahmed. Well, in acquitting the former minister, the court has also exonerated him of any criminal charges.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Attahiru Jega, has restated his commitment to conducting credible elections come 2015. Addressing resident electoral commissioners in Abuja, Professor Jega emphasized the need for the commissioners to streamline preparations for the general elections in order to avoid the lapses experienced in the Anambra governorship poll. He challenged the commissioners to provide the necessary leadership that will guarantee free, fair and credible elections, beginning with the governorship elections in Ekiti and Osun States in 2014.
As we are all aware, we are moving into the last lap of our work and preparations in the next 1 month or so as we prepare for the 2015 general elections. May I use this opportunity, therefore, to urge all of us to continue to do our best as we prepare for that election. Of course, there will be 2 other governorship elections, namely Ekiti and Osun State, before the 2015 elections. The challenge for us is to ensure that we make these 2 governorship elections as the test case in terms of remarkable improvements before the 2015 general elections. Obviously, all the lessons we've learned from Anambra and all the efforts that we've been making to make 2015 a successful and peaceful and credible election, we have to also ensure that these are factored into our preparations for these 2 governorship elections.
Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Attahiru Jega. To other matters now, an Italian man kidnapped in Nigeria last week has been released. Marcello Rizzo, who is a 55-year-old man from Sicily, was working for the Italian construction company Gito Costruzioni when he was kidnapped in the Niger Delta in southern Nigeria. He had been living in the country for 8 years. The Italian Foreign Ministry has confirmed Mr. Rizzo's release, but says that it has no more information to give. The Italian government announced Rizzo had been kidnapped on December the 6th, but officials said he was reported missing a few days earlier. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, the Debt Management Office sells 75 billion naira in bonds.
That's in business news. And on the foreign scene, still making the rounds, the execution of the second most powerful man in North Korea.
Please join us again.
If you want to know what's trending or you miss your favorite live shows, you can watch it all on our YouTube channel. Simply log on to www.youtube.com/channelsweb. Scroll down to your favorite program and click play. You can also view all uploaded videos by clicking on View All. Don't forget to subscribe and get the latest videos. If they are interesting, like them and be heard. Get connected with the channel's television YouTube page. The news at your fingertips.
Welcome back. You're watching News Track on Channels Television. Time for business news, and effective January 2014, banks will commence a parallel run of both Basel I and II minimum capital adequacy computation. That's contained in a circular to all banks and discount houses on the implementation of Basel II and III in Nigeria, released by the CBN. Henceforth, banks are required to carry out their internal capital adequacy assessment process, that's the ICAAP, on an annual basis as at December 31st, and forward copies of the report to the CBN for review not later than 4 months after the year.
And consequently, the Apex Bank has also given banks April the 30th, 2014 as deadline for submission of their ICAAP for 2013 financial year. Basel II was initially published in June 2004 to create an international standard for banking regulators to control how much capital banks need to put aside, also to guard against the various risks the banks expose themselves to. Well, the Debt Management Office sold 75 billion naira in bonds with maturities of 3 or 20 years at higher yields than at a previous auction in November. According to the DMO, it sold 40 billion naira in 3-year notes maturing in August 2016 at 12.9% at an auction on Wednesday, up from 12.55% at the previous auction. It sold 35 billion naira in the 20-year paper at 13.2% against 12.98% previously. Now, total subscription stands at 133.39 billion naira, compared with 139.79 billion naira at the November auction. The currency circulation in the nation's economy grew by 9.78% this year, and that's according to the latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The data shows that as currency in circulation stood at 1.57 trillion naira at the end of November 2013, showing an increase of 140.07 billion naira in the corresponding period of 2012. The Apex Bank also says that currency in circulation rose by 21.49 billion naira between October and November, while year-to-date figure dropped by 60.68 billion naira in 2012. Currency circulation within the country has remained above 1 trillion naira since hitting the trillion naira mark in December 2008, when it stood at 1.2 trillion naira. Well, crude oil prices stayed above $108 per barrel today as traders look ahead to next week's Federal Reserve meeting for any changes to its massive stimulus program. Now, Brent crude for January edged up 10 cents to $108.77 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures for January delivery were at $97.52 per barrel. Meanwhile, in Libya, the government is set to reopen 3 eastern ports on Sunday that could increase exports from the country from the current 250,000 barrels per day.
And more international news, the body of the legend and anti-apartheid hero Nelson Mandela is lying in state at the Union Building in Pretoria for the 3rd and final day, after which his funeral will take place on Sunday, December the 15th. Now let's tell you what's expected to happen. Elders, that is COSA elders, are expected to prepare to smooth Nelson Mandela's journey into the spiritual world in a traditional tribal farewell this weekend.
Now, the family has insisted that the rites are woven into the service on Sunday, which will also incorporate the formality of both state and military funeral. The COSA rituals involve the slaughtering of 2 oxen, one before his body arrives from Pretoria at his ancestral home of Kunu in the Eastern Cape, and another the morning of the burial. It will be a fusion of traditional and formal farewells to one of the world's most revered leaders in one of the world's remotest areas.
Let's bring